What is up, everyone? My name is Michael Pohl, and today we're going to be talking about how I film my YouTube videos. So this is actually my third time trying to film this video. The first time I filmed the video front to back, it was like, I do a lot of cuts and pauses and like drink breaks and stuff like that. So it was like 25 to 30 minutes of actual recording. Probably would have chopped down into about a 10 to 15 minute video. And after about 3 minutes of recording, the batteries in my wireless microphones died. And that's a rookie mistake. That's one of the reasons why I stopped using this camera specifically for like professional work, because I can't monitor the audio levels on it. I don't know why Canon doesn't let you, but I should have swapped the batteries before. I know better. I was lazy. I normally film like right before I go to sleep, so I'm usually tired. And yeah, and then the second time I tried to film, and after about 10 minutes of trying to sit here and actually like film, I just was not in the mood, and I just put everything away and was like, I'm gonna film another day. So third time should be the charm. That being said, let's get into the topic of the video, and that's gonna be how I film my YouTube videos. So I've had a lot of people ask me how I film my YouTube videos. They've reached out via my Instagram, they've reached out via my Facebook page, they've left a comment down below, and they're always like, what do you film with? How do you film it? I'm starting a YouTube channel, I'm trying, to up my YouTube game, whatever it may be. How do you film your YouTube videos? They look really good. Now, part of the reason why my videos, I don't wanna say they look like amazing, but I do video professionally for a living. So I put this whole kit together with, scrap equipment. People are gonna hate me for saying that, but it's honest. All this stuff was sitting on a shelf that I wasn't using. And I go, yep, I'm gonna use this piece, and I'm gonna use this piece, and I'm gonna use this piece. And I put it together, and it's all equipment that I used full time at one point or another. Like the camera I was using for vlogging a while back, the light I use still occasionally. But it was stuff that primarily sat on a shelf. So it's not necessarily the best stuff, but it's good stuff, and it's pretty cheap too. I also have quite a few cameras to choose from. I've got everything from little Sony mirrorless cameras. This is a Sony a6500. You can get these for like $1,000 now, but I bought it at like $1,500 when it was a lot newer. I've got little like Canon Rebels. These are like what you find at Costco. This is a T3i, which on eBay right now goes for like $300. They're cheap. And then I've got these like giant monster, this is one of my photo cameras. It's a full frame DSLR with a 70-200 2.8 on it. And those things get like super expensive. This is like, when it was new, when I bought it, you're talking a couple $1,000s. So I've got quite a few cameras to choose from, but the setup I chose ended up being like, I want to say when I added it up, it was like $600 total, $700 total, not including the wireless microphone, but you can wire a microphone, and we'll talk about that later. So the camera that I use to film my YouTube videos is a Canon M3. It's one of Canon's mirrorless cameras. It's an older mirrorless camera, and you can pick them up on eBay and Amazon all day for like $250 to $300. I bought this camera specifically because it had face autofocus. None of my other cameras at the time had it, and I needed something for vlogging. Plus it's compact, it's cheap, and if I broke it while I was out doing whatever, I wasn't gonna cry as much about it. It was a $300 camera. It's not one of my like fancy $2,000 cameras. The only downside to the Canon M3 is it doesn't shoot 60 frames per second, which if you don't know cameras, that's how you get slow motion, is either 60 or 120 frames per second. So if you see any slow motion footage on my channel, it's probably coming from my Sony camera. I don't use this one very much for the channel because I don't like dealing with the color correction and stuff for YouTube videos, but that one shoots 60 frames per second and 120 frames per second, but I don't use it much for this unless I'm doing like slow motion videos of the fish. I also occasionally will use my not my Canon cell phone, my Samsung cell phone. This is an S8 Plus, but pretty much any cell phone will do. Video is actually not the most important part in my opinion, and I know some people are going to argue with that. Trust me, it's not. You can make really bad footage look really good if you have the right other accessory equipment. If I was looking to buy another camera right now, I would either be looking at the Canon SL2 or the Canon M50. The M50 is a mirrorless camera from Canon. The SL2 is not. The SL2 is a little bit cheaper, but it has dual pixel autofocus, which is great. It shoots 60 frames a second, which does slow motion, and it has a flip out screen so you can look at yourself, and it takes Canon's full-size lenses with no adapters. The Canon M50 is nice. I think it's got better autofocus capabilities than the Canon SL2, but personally, I would probably actually buy an SL2. I don't use 4K very often. I have cameras that are capable of shooting 4K, but it's way overkill for 90% of people, especially if you're a fish channel. It's not needed. The M50 also costs a little bit more, and you have to buy an adapter to use other Canon lenses on it. They make some specifically for mirrorless, but most of the good lenses are actual Canon full frame lenses, so you're gonna have to either buy a cheap like $50, $60 adapter like what I'm using right here with the Photo Deox one, or you're gonna have to spend, I wanna say they're like 250 bucks to get the Metabones version, which is like the name brand one, and that's just, there's no reason to do that. Like I said, I like this one because of the compactness, but I would probably go with the SL2 if I was gonna buy a new camera today. The M3 is a good one, and it's a lot cheaper than both of those. It's like half the price, but you don't get slow motion. So depending on what you're doing, that may or may not be the right choice for you. Now the lens that I use on the camera, like I said, I'm filming on a Canon M3, so I have a Photo Deox EFM to EFS adapter. It also takes EFS lenses, which is Canon's crop sensor lenses, and I've got a Canon 50mm lens on the camera right now. That's what you're looking at. It's a 50mm 1.8. They run about $125 and they are awesome budget lenses. The one downside to this lens is you have to have the camera kind of far away. It's probably about 6 feet away from me right now, and you know, I can't reach it at all just to get this framing. If you wanted a wider shot, it's gonna have to be like 10, 15, 20 feet away from you. And so recently I actually picked up this little Canon 24mm 2.8. These run about $130. They're a little more expensive, but it's a lot wider than the 50mm. It's about twice as wide. Actually, I don't even know what the technical words for it, but yeah, I want to say it's about twice as wide, 24 versus 50. That would give you a much wider shot for, again, a really good price. It's like 130 bucks. Be good for like fish room tours and things like that, where this 50mm lens would not be. If I had a nice fish room behind me, I would probably use that 24mm, but you know, I've just got the one tank and then the two tanks down low, so the 50mm looks a lot nicer, although my room may be changing a little bit, and so I may have to switch to the 24mm sometime soon. Another option, if you're gonna be more of like a fish tour person, or if you wanna add to your lens collection later on, would be this 11 to 18, I believe. Yep, Canon 11 to 18, or 10 to 18, sorry, 10 to 18mm lens. This lens is super, super wide. Like, this is like a traditional vlogging lens. And I want to say they come in at like $350. It's not one I would recommend to like start out with, unless you have the money and you like the look of it. It is a really nice lens, really good for video work, but again, really, really, really wide angle. Last but not least, you can definitely use your cell phone. Picking up something like this. This is a little cell phone adapter for a tripod. You know, it just clamps onto your phone, then you squeeze it in and you can film yourself. Use your back camera. Don't use your front camera, your selfie camera. Don't use it. Use the back camera. It's a lot nicer quality, I promise. It's gonna make your videos look a lot nicer than if you flip to the front screen. I know you can't see yourself. Tape a mirror behind you if you've got to, but use the back camera. You can also pick up a little audio adapter like this that lets you use some nicer microphones that we're gonna talk about in a minute. The next, and this is, I would argue, the most important and most overlooked part of video on YouTube, is your audio. Your audio, in my opinion, is more important than the video. You can have really, really good video, but have really, really bad audio, and no one's gonna wanna listen to your video. Or you can have really, really bad video, but really, really good audio, and people will listen to you all day. Granted, some people have really good content, they have bad video and bad audio, and people still listen to them. I'm talking just overall general. There's always outliers, there's always exceptions, but overall, most people will appreciate better audio versus better video. The other thing that's really nice is audio is actually a lot cheaper to get done properly. Now, what I'm recording with right now is a $400 set, I want to say they're about $400, it might be $300, of wireless lavalier microphones. So this is me recording through my Samsung S8 cell phone. I have my wireless lavaliers plugged into the camera itself through the adapter that I talked about. This is how it sounds. The only reason those are so expensive is because they're wireless. If I wired this straight into the camera, you're talking like $20. You're gonna get the same sound quality, but you're just gonna have a wire that runs to the camera. I already have these. Like I said, I do video. So for me, it wasn't that big of a deal to just grab them out of my bag and throw them on myself and use them. If I was a new YouTuber, I definitely wouldn't go out and buy wireless unless you absolutely need to. You can pick up something like this. This is a Purple Panda lavalier. It's not the highest quality lavalier ever. Rode makes some that are like 80, 90 bucks. You can buy even more expensive lavaliers that are like $1,000 a piece. They can get up there. But this is like a $20 kit. And the thing I like about this is, yes, it's not the best sounding microphone, but it sounds much, much better than your standard cell phone video or your standard on-camera audio. For example, this is my cell phone about 6 feet away. This is where I normally record with that 50mm lens. It's gonna be a lot harder to hear me and a lot lower quality sound. I'm having to raise my voice a little bit. This is about where I normally talk with the lavalier versus everywhere else when I'm kind of raising my voice a little bit because I wanna make sure you guys are hearing me. I zoomed in a little bit because I didn't want you guys to see necessarily what's on the floor around me. I've got some like hidden tanks and stuff behind me. But again, keep that in mind, depending on how far away the microphone is or your room type, that's gonna play a role in how good the quality of the sound is. This is me recording audio through the Purple Panda lavalier microphone on my Samsung S8 Plus, running straight into the camera. Remember, this doesn't need any adapters. This will just plug straight into your cell phone. Unless you're on iPhone and you need one of those little dongle things for your headphones, you'll need that. But this will plug right into that with no additional adapters like some other microphones will need. It also comes with an adapter to plug into your DSLR. These are made specifically for cell phones. So if you just want to plug it straight into your cell phone, it works. You don't need any adapter for it, which is great for a lot of people starting out. And it comes with an extension cable. 10-foot extension cable, so you can pretty much walk around, do whatever you need to do, and you're covered with your audio. You don't have to be facing the camera, you don't have to be close to the camera, and that's why I love lavalier microphones. A lot of people recommend shotgun microphones or like the little pointy things that mount at the top of the camera. I have those. I'm going to recommend some in a second, but I much prefer lavaliers, especially if you're going to be sitting down and talking like this, or if you're going to be moving around and facing away from the camera and things like that. So again, Purple Panda, I'm going to link to it down below. It's my favorite microphone, actually one of my favorite microphones that I own. The wireless microphones that I use, they're Saramonic UW Mic 9s. It's a kit. It comes with 2 transceivers and a receiver, so I can actually mic up a second person. So if I'm doing a fish room tour or something, I can put one microphone on me, one microphone on the fish store owner, and then we can just follow it around and have both of our audios picked up no matter who's where and what, and you can actually hear what we're saying. The next type of microphone that a lot of people recommend is what they call a shotgun microphone. And this is real common, especially if you're gonna have like 4 or 5 people in the shot, or if you're gonna be touring a fish store with a bunch of people and a group of people, or you can't lob someone up, like you're gonna go tour an aquarium or something like that. You're gonna wanna use something like a shotgun microphone. This one right here is a Rode Video Mic Pro Plus. This is like a $300 microphone. This is the one that I use a lot. This is the Canon M3 with the 24mm lens. I'm like literally right at arm's length. I can touch the camera. So this is, forgot what I was saying, the Video Mic Pro Plus at, like I said, arm's length. I'm having trouble today. But they make them cheap too. So this is a Takstar SG like 598. These are like $20 on Amazon all day long. I use this for years. This is the Takstar shotgun microphone at arm's length away on the Canon EOS M3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, until I finally broke down and bought a Rode. And the only reason I bought this one is because it turns on and off with the camera, and I had a bad habit of leaving this off, so I end up having to record a video multiple times like I'm having to right now. This one's also not made quite as nice as the Rode. This one's a little, you know, it's plastic, it's a little cheaper quality, but it's $20 versus like $300. This Takstar takes a AA battery. If I can get the battery tray off, there we go. I use rechargeable batteries, so that doesn't really matter too much to me. It's got an amplifier, and it's got some low pass filters and other fancy features like that. Another really common one is this little Rode Video Micro. It's a really tiny one. It's a little like vlogging style. I actually used this a lot when I was vlogging, just because it wasn't as big as the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus, and it's just a little smaller. These are like $50 or $60, so again, if I broke it, or it gets wet, or drops into your fish tank, whatever, I'm only losing $60, not, you know, $300, whatever it is. But I'm not a big fan of how it flops like this. You can fix this by actually clipping the line into the little hot shoe there, and it doesn't flop as bad. but it's not amplified. It doesn't have the boosters or anything like that, but it doesn't require a battery. That's a big selling point for this, is there's no battery. It uses the power from your camera. So a lot of people like that because it's just always ready to go as long as you've got your charged battery for your camera. Now, last but not least, I'm gonna be talking about the lighting that I use. The lighting I use is actually really cheap. I use just a simple light stand. I've got a slightly nicer one here for the photos, but I've got a cheaper one at my office that I use a lot. I just happen to have this one here, and like I said, I'm lazy. I've got a metal umbrella mount is what they call it. Don't get the plastic ones. I know they're only like $3. They break after like 2 uses. Spend the $10, get the metal one. I've got an LED panel by Newer. I think it's the Newer 216. You can swap this out for pretty much any sort of LED panel that you can find on Amazon. Some are AC powered, so they just plug into the wall. Others are battery powered, like this one. Some are brighter, some are darker, some have different color temperatures. That really depends. Again, I just happen to have this one because I bought it to try it for something else. But you know, you can pretty much replace it with any sort of LED panel. You can replace it with a darker one or whatever. I've got that LED panel shooting through a shoot-through umbrella. It's a 33-inch Newer umbrella. I like this lighting setup because I can take it down. If you have like an actual fish room and you have a little bit of extra space, I would actually recommend going the like the full-time dedicated with multiple light bulbs in it route. They're just easier. They are a lot brighter. You're a little more flexible, but they're a pain to break down. I film in my bedroom, so I can't leave those up all the time. I'm limited on space, so I bought this stuff so that I can break it down. It fits underneath my bed. It fits into, like, basically it's an umbrella. It's a little box that's like this big, and then it's a stand that breaks down to like the size of a tripod. What I use for my hair light is actually like super ghetto and cheap, but they work really good, and I'm too lazy to spend $20 on an LED light for the back of my hair. And that is a heat lamp from like Home Depot. They're like $5. You throw a light bulb in it. I threw some diffusion stuff that I had over it. You can substitute this for parchment paper. And basically what it does is it lines the back of my head just a little bit, gives me just a little bit of separation. It's not needed, but you can go back and look at some of my videos where I forget to turn it on, and you can notice that it's not there if you're looking for it. So that's just a little subtle like $10 tip, is adding a hair light or a rim light. It can separate you, especially if you have dark tanks or black backgrounds or whatever like me. I like to kind of have a little bit of separation, and that light, not super noticeable to most people, but it adds just a little bit of that touch. And now I'm actually gonna go last but not least because I forgot all my other miscellaneous equipment. The tripod I have is a Siru tripod or something. It's a photography tripod. You can substitute this with pretty much any tripod you want. I'm gonna link to an Amazon Basics as well as the one that I have. The bad thing about tripods is the cheap ones tend to be really cheap. They break real easy, they don't hold a lot of weight. So depending on what you're filming on, you may or may not need a more expensive one. I tend to put a lot of weight. A lot of times I film with a teleprompter for work, so that's why I have this tripod. It'll hold it. I don't use a teleprompter on this channel, but you know, I could get away with an Amazon Basics tripod. Especially if you're using a cell phone, you can definitely get away with an Amazon Basics tripod for like 20 bucks. Call it good, you're good to go. This tripod I want to say runs like $150. There's 1,000,001 of them out there. Some people spend a couple thousand, some people spend $20. That's really up to you. Like I just said, I also have a teleprompter. I've debated about bringing it onto the channel for videos like this because I tend to ramble and I tend to repeat myself, but I don't like using the teleprompter because I feel like it's not as personal. I know some YouTubers that use it and you can never tell that they do, but for me, I just don't react well when I'm reading a teleprompter. You can tell I'm very like reading a teleprompter. So what I do instead is I actually have a little tripod mount clip thingy that sits right on my tripod, and I just clip a piece of paper there and I put bullet points with the talking points I want. See that right there? Wouldn't happen with a teleprompter. I could just edit that out and go back and all that good stuff. But I have a piece of paper that just hangs off of my tripod, tells me what I want to talk about, helps keep me on task, and helps me to make sure that I hit all the points that I wanted to talk about. What's up everyone? So it's the day after I filmed this. I realized I totally forgot to talk about what I edit on and how I process the videos, and that's kind of an important part So I just edit off of a laptop. I need to really just spend the money and get an editing desktop, but I haven't yet. I run this laptop, I plug it into this 23-inch IPS monitor. I've got a color calibrator that I use. Again, it's not really needed for YouTube, but it's nice. I've also got this 43-inch TV that I can send things up on and just double check it on like a full screen, just in case I need to do anything, or like, oh, that's out of focus, or is it in focus or not, whatever. I plug in a bunch of like little Western Digital, I use 4 terabyte hard drives, but that's kind of overkill for a lot of people. I back everything up, so every time I film anything, it gets put on my main external hard drive, it gets put on a second external hard drive as a backup, and then it backs up to the cloud as well. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind, just in case something ever happens. It's overkill for most people, but again, I like the rule of 3, and it keeps my footage safe. I edit off of Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm a Creative Cloud member. I want to say it's like $20 a month or something like that. You can pick it up for a year-long subscription. If you're a student, I believe it's cheaper. There's other alternatives out there. You can use like iMovie or Windows Movie Maker, or anything like that. I use Sony Vegas 11, I think, like a 2011. I bought it for like $30 on Amazon. It was right on my laptop, and I edited on that up until like 8 or 9 months ago, when I finally broke down and bought Premiere, because I wanted to just kind of be on standard with everyone else in the industry, and that's what everyone uses. That's what all like the plugins are for. So that's kind of what I switched to. But that's how I edit. That's how I kind of produce the footage. And sorry this video is long, but I'm hoping you guys get some information out of it. One last final thing, the laptop is an i7 processor with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and I want to say it's a 2 gigabytes graphics card. Nothing crazy. You want to get the best processor and graphics and RAM that you can get and afford. You know, RAM is important, especially for the exporting and that. Your processor's decently important. I usually recommend at least an i5 and then as much RAM as you can recommend, or as much RAM as you can get. If you can afford an i7 and 16 gigs, do it. If you can afford something with a graphics card, do it. You're gonna love yourself. So much easier. A desktop is a lot cheaper than a laptop. The desktop I have at my studio is an i5 with 16 gigabytes of RAM and a graphics card, and I got it for like 400 bucks. So shop around, you can find stuff, it works great. It's just as powerful, almost as powerful actually as this laptop minus the processor, but it's less than half the price. So definitely keep that in mind when you're shopping. The desktop's gonna be a lot cheaper. I'm not a big Apple fan, I think they're overpriced, especially for what we do, but to each their own. So that's pretty much it. Sorry this video is a lot longer than my past videos have been. I was trying not to go too in-depth because like I said, I do cameras for a living, so I can talk cameras like super nerdy for like 3 hours. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'll try to answer them. I'm not familiar with every little piece of camera technology out there. I'm not the best. I'm not, you know, by any means a camera expert, but I am pretty camera savvy. I do have a lot of experience, and I have a lot of, I used to shoot Nikon, and I've shot on some Red cameras before, and you know, all sorts of everything in between. So let me know if you have any questions. I will try to help you. If not, I can try to point you to a YouTube channel that will help you, and hopefully we can get you guys set up. As always, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, you guys know what to do. If you haven't considered subscribing for those camera people that may be here, or random other YouTube people, if you can guess, I'm a fish channel. So if you like fish, hit subscribe. I would appreciate it. If you really like fish, hit the bell notification next to the subscribe button. Then you'll be notified every time that I post. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.